Hi, I'm Jonathan Wyner.
I'm Enrique Gonzalez Müller.
And welcome to Season 4, Episode 1 of Are You Listening?
The basics. We will cover the craft and the art, emotional objectives. Why do we do what we do? And then reference mixes. Give us some calibration tools for the road ahead.
And remember to subscribe to the iZotope YouTube channel so you can be notified about future episodes of Are You Listening and other videos from iZotope.
Mixing. It's such a vast, oftentimes daunting thing that we do. And really the approach that I'd love for us to take is, why do we do what we do? Before we get going, I have a gift for you.
What?
Let me just share there with the audience.
Now, actually, he is not wrong. And I'll tell you what I think is hard about it. People talk about mastering being mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
From my point of view, it's because people don't have the opportunity to practice it a lot. Mixing, I think, has this aura of mystery around it, too. All this sound that you've recorded.
Yeah.
This idea of, like, how can I imagine what this is going to sound like?
Mm-hmm.
How did you learn that process of imagining what something might sound like?
So for me, it was this journey where I had to separate my brain in two. I had been a music lover. I start studying mixing, engineering, production. I gather a bunch of tools. Everything sounds awkward. Put that stuff away. Go back to listening to those records that you loved when you were 13. Study them, listen to them in a different way. And seeing, oh, wow, in this mix, I don't hear everything. The mix is not democratic. Everything here is not the same level. If everything was the same level, like my mixes are where I can hear everything, it's not musical. Ooh, How did they do it? Wow, the hi-hat is louder than the kick drum, because maybe that's where the groove is at. If we start with a song, that song is then fleshed out in a production. The production has an arrangement. The multi-track we get delivered has a bunch of sounds, which are the arrangement. I think it's for us to go and listen to the arrangement, the sounds within, and assess which items are the important ones, if you will, that are going to help tell the story. And sometimes we work with arrangements that are very smartly made for what I think they're trying to convey. And sometimes we work with arrangements that are a little bit counterproductive. Mm-hmm. And it's our job as mix engineers to go, this is what you're trying to say. This is what I've been given. My job is to make a palatable, an awesome feeling experience for the listener. This is how I'm going to get creative with the ingredients that I've been given. For me, when I think of mixing, I think of a sonic canvas. And really the things in a macro sense that I always consider are the frequency footprint, the spatial footprint, and the dynamic footprint of the sounds within the multitrack. And by footprint, I mean, if you will, how much space they take, right? A kick drum, how much frequency space within the spectrum will it take spatially? Is it mono? Is it stereo? How wide? And dynamic, what is its dynamic range, et cetera, et cetera. To me, understanding that we have a finite canvas, right? If we think of 20 hertz to 20K, that's finite. If we have center, hard left, hard right, that's finite. I can't listen to it, we're distorting, that's finite. Mm-hmm. How do we push is it 20? Is it 40? Is it 82 things in the arrangement in this canvas so that we can help tell the story? Setting the table with those three items, it starts with why. Why would we choose to make a kick drum tiny or big? So for this, I have an example for us.
Awesome.
This song is a song called En Reversa, which means in reverse. And it's by an awesome Venezuelan artist, Lagarto, like lizard. So Lagarto sends me this rough mix. Sure, it's not the finished product, but I know that the artist has approved it. I know that the artist feels proud enough to share this maybe with his friends. So there's something here that I cannot let go of as a mix engineer. First thing is understand and try to glean the intention of the whole piece as a macro, and then of the different sections. You see here that I've broken it out into verse 1, verse 1B, pre-chorus, pre-chorus 1B. To me, it's important to assess the intended emotion in each section and what it develops into for the other ones. This is, again, going to inform how loud or quiet or panned or not something is. So let's do this. So we're professorial here. We're both professors. So this is what the exercise that you guys are going to have to do. Please grab some sort of writing mechanism. I'm going to hit play. After we're done listening, you're going to come up with something that any music lover would say. This song was about this macro emotion. But as we listen, I want you to do two things. One, write down what overall emotion you hear in each section. So that's kind of a music lover stance. As a mix engineer from that other stance, try to hear if this particular expression of the mix is maximizing those intended emotions. If the answer is no, spoiler, the answer will be no, or at least not quite. Try to write down as quickly as possible the one or the two items that are, it's supposed to rock. It doesn't rock as hard because the drums are not loud enough.
For instance, yeah.
And the vocals are muffled and I can't quite understand what is being told to me. Shall we?
Awesome. We shall.
So here we go. This is again En Reversa by Lagarto.
Otra vez aquí, en el fondo del vagón, sentado viendo el mundo girar. ¿Será que perdí la parada? No sería la primera vez que pasa. Fue sin querer, perdido entre pantallas. ¿Qué más toca que llenarme de mis cosas y andar en reversa? A ver a dónde lleva este extraño andar. ¿Será? Hay alguien que me espera mientras no me tuve otra vía que me lleve a casa o a cualquier lugar. No importa el destino, sino el camino que nos lleve hacia allá. A ver a dónde lleva este extraño andar. Será nuevo amanecer, nuevo planeta. ¿Qué nos toca que andar en reversa?
So for me, my approach as a mixer when it comes to this phase is very similar to my approach as a producer, where I basically encounter an artist. I have deep conversations with them as I'm in an imagined way, having with this mix, to understand what it is that they want to say. Basically, the song is about somebody in reversa is in reverse. So it's about somebody being on a subway car and they get to the last stop and then they fell asleep and it goes back. Regardless, I've had to mix things in Italian and Korean that I have no idea what they're saying, but I need to have these kind of imagined conversations. Anyways, so what I'd like to do now is listen to it again, and I'm going to talk over it a little bit. Never am I pretending to say that now the word on what it's supposed to be, but rather I'm being called as the mix engineer and I'm being entrusted with you do your thing. So let me tell you what I hear those emotional objectives are and how could I maximize them with a couple of moves. To me, this is an intimate part of the song, right? And it's all about the guitar and the vocal. So the thing that I hear is that it's not intimate enough. I think the vocals, if they were more present and breathier, it might give me the impression that they're talking to me a little bit more. There's something not happy about the song where it starts. There's a little tension in there, and it's kind of reflective and nostalgic, right? For me, the vocals need to be more mid-rangey, more in my face, and that guitar, I think if I pan it to the left or pan it to one side and make it a little bit more tense and jarring and lopsided.
So you're trying to increase the sense of tension.
Correct.
Okay.
Then let's go to this next section.
No sería la primera vez que pasa, fue sin querer, perdido entre pantallas.
The development here is it's a little more psychedelic, it's dreamier.
Reversa.
There are these splashes of guitars that's the new thing, and also there's a kick drum there. So I always think that when listeners start any experience that they're going to listen to, they start really fresh and then their energy starts to deplete. I want to make this section dreamier, and I know that they've already heard these chords before. So I'm going to put more delays to make it even more psychedelic, and the kick drum needs to be a little bit punchier. Big emotional development, a lot of release, and it's heavier. There's this halftime thing that happens. So for me, that's where the energy needs to go, the halftime. And I feel that just really leaning in on those snares, that's really where the emphasis needs to be. Then on pre-chorus 1B, things quiet down. And this to me is a more tense part of the song. So what I want to do is make everything small, make the vocals more muffled, make those guitars, everything I want to crunch up. Also knowing that in the timeline, the chorus is coming. So I'm pulling a punch so that the chorus can hit a little bit harder. I'm going to play the pre-chorus again and then talk over the chorus. So try to envision pulling that punch. Everything really quiet. With the vocals almost mumbly. Here I'm dreaming, right, of this stuff. So here comes the chorus. And it's supposed to be this epic release, but not really. Why? The drums aren't loud enough. They're not punchy enough. And you hear that the vocal protagonist is not there anymore. So who's leading my attention? Here, the artist has it as the synthesizer. Check it out. But I don't think it's as interesting as the guitar that's hiding behind it. There's more memorability and uniqueness there. Check it out. Listen for the guitar. More of a melody. So this big epic drums, now we go into the verse. This is the relaxed version, right? Here we have that guitar, very loud, but I think I want to get a more kind of surfer chill vibe. To me, it's the acoustic guitars, which are underemphasized here. That will help the rhythm more. These other guitars are a little too slow. Then we have the pre-chorus too. Continuation, maybe a little bit dreamier, make those background vocals brighter. And then we get to one of the weirder parts of the song, the pre-chorus B. 4 on the floor. It's like a pressure cooker that is meant to explode on the bridge. So for me, the 4 on the floor kick needs to be very, very present, and those super loud so that we can knock people off of their balance. And then when we come to the chorus, finally, this is the heaviest, meanest, most aggressive part. And you can just hear those bombastic drums in there, which are underserved. Then here, we have that high guitar, which is a blanket. But underneath, listen to the snare. That's a lot of the march of the part. And also there's a synthesizer. Which is there, it's just really quiet. And I think that's where I can extract a lot of aggressiveness from. And then goodbye the song.
So that's a lot.
It is.
That's a lot to take in and a lot of interesting ideas. The thing that sort of hits me, like on first listen in the face, is balance. Who's taking like center stage?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I paying attention to in what proportion? Which affects dynamics, which affects frequency, all of those things.
Most definitely. Like you're seeing us right now, we are in focus. That stuff in the back is not as in focus. That dog. So whoever's making this wonderful video is making very assertive, deliberate decisions to tell you, the viewer, that you should be paying attention to us, not that stuff in the back. And the lighting is such, and et cetera, et cetera. So for me, yes, it's about balance, and balance is a word that I use in frequency, that I use in the spatial distribution, that I think also in dynamics, obviously. So now what I'd like to do is do a second listen where I'd like to play for you all my mixed version. So here, try to think of my notes as I was saying them to you and seeing how I realized this. And by the way, this has not been mastered.
I'm so glad that you're going to mix this, because if I tried to fix all those issues in mastering, I could not. Right?
See when it works?
I appreciate you.
Likewise, and here we go.
Otra vez aquí, en el fondo del vagón, sentado viendo el mundo girar. ¿Será que perdí la parada? No sería la primera vez que pasa. Fue sin querer, perdido entre pantallas. ¿Qué más toca que llenarme de mis cosas y andar en reversa? A ver a dónde lleva este extraño andar. ¿Será? Hay alguien que me espera mientras no me tumbe el viento. ¿Qué más toca que andar en reversa? Me pasé la salida, tocará dar vuelta y encontrar
it makes sense. I mean, it actually, you know what I mean? It's like the way you've laid it out. I get it. Nicely done.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And as you might have seen me air drumming and getting happy with the mix is oftentimes we get asked, so when do you know a mix is done?
When you run out of money?
And the
Or
deadline.
time? The deadline, right.
When those two things are not there, which is never, another way to know is when I know what those objectives are emotionally, and I listen to it and it just flows and everything feels like it should. So I know that it's been quite a listen, but I'd like to do a toggle between the two. Let's start with what the artist sent. And then halfway through each section, it's going to go to what I did. Again, I added nothing. This is exactly the multi-track that was given to me. I didn't augment it. I didn't change any parts. It's exactly the same stuff. And I've level matched them, of course, so that you can have a fluid experience. So here we go. We're going to start with the original that the artist sent, the artist mix, and then go to the EGM mix. Here we go.
Otra vez aquí, en el fondo del vagón, sentado viendo el mundo girar. ¿Será que perdí la parada? No sería la primera vez que pasa. Fue sin querer, perdido entre pantallas. ¿Qué más toca que llenarme de mis cosas y andar en reversa? A ver a dónde lleva este extraño andar. ¿Será? Hay alguien que me espera mientras no detuve el viento. ¿Qué más toca que andar en reversa? Me pasé la saliendo cara a dar vuelta y encontrar otra vía que me lleve a casa o a cualquier lugar. No importa el destino, sino el camino que nos lleve hacia allá. A ver a dónde lleva este extraño andar. ¿Será? Hay alguien que me espera. Nuevo amanecer, nuevo planeta. ¿Qué más toca que andar en reversa? ¿Qué más toca que andar en reversa?
Bye, mix.
I'm sad it's over. I do have a question. Did you tune anything? And actually, I'll tell you why I'm asking. Some of what sounded to me like pitch issues
Yeah.
that I heard in the original mix resolved. And I'm wondering how much of that was really a matter of proportion and how much of it was a matter of processing. You don't have to tell us this now if you don't
I
want
will,
to.
but I will say this before. You know what you have, sir? Ears. Yes, I tuned some things, but I also detuned some things.
Interesting.
So there's this section where there's da, da, da. There I detuned it.
Yeah.
as I was listening to this, your gut reaction of it's a lot. It is a lot. It is a lot to think about. But I just want to say to everybody out there, how would you like to be treated? Imagine if you go and record your song and you've lived your life and you've distilled it into a track and you've gone to great lengths to record it, and then you give it to a mix engineer and they never care for what the song is about. They just go and mix organization and plug in and preset and this, that, and the other. So I think for us, the exercise of, yes, these are our tools at our disposal, which we'll use and nerd out with in the coming conversation that we're going to have, but really putting the horse before the cart. Why are we doing things, to me, is massively important.
Some people who are viewing this, they're going to be the people who are writing the song, recording the song, and then mixing the song.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations for people about how much should they be thinking about being the mix engineer while they're writing? Or do you suggest that they keep those two parts of their brain separate for the moment?
Do everything you can. And once you're done, put it away. Put it away for as long as you can. And then maybe play it for your intended audience. And try to really have an emotional detachment from them. So if you call your friends, you're going to have to just divorce yourself from, they are my friends. The exercise is really to try to emotionally sever your ties to the music and listen to it through the ears of your intended audience. Then if I compare myself to references, right, to other artists that are doing great stuff, my drums are nowhere as punchy. My vocals are too clean, these type of things. For the more experienced engineers, the things that I would say are, I would invite people to think of their expression in two different states. One, purely creative, just with abandon, no censorship. When you're composing, throw paint at the wall. When you're listening to a mix or a multitrack for the first time, go crazy with what you want to do with it. Then give it a moment, come back and look at the mess that you made. And then start seeing, oh, there are patterns here. Let me edit it in this way. And then you start distilling and focusing things to try to tell your story effectively.
While it's great to be working on a song in and of itself, and sometimes that's the best place to be for a while, right? It's you want to sort of treat the child for the child that it is.
Yeah.
But then at some point you have a standardized test. That's a terrible analogy in this case, right? But you sort of want to get a sense of what's going to happen next.
But the standardized, if I can save you on that one for a second,
please rescue
is
me.
The thing that I see a lot of my young Berklee students have difficulty with is the topic of translatability.
Yeah.
So this whole thing of I worked on my mix for 8 hours at home, I'm dead tired, but I'm feeling great about it, go to my friend's house, play it, and it does not sound at all like I remember it to be. So what comes to the rescue? The thing that I find has been a lifesaver has been reference mixes. But let me unpack a bit what I understand to be a reference mix, because I think it's a name that gets thrown around a lot, but people think different things about it. For me, a reference mix is a calibration tool. It's a tool that lets me assess quickly if the playback system, the room, and my perception, how those three things are working in connection to help me understand the experience that I'm having. So this calibration tool, this reference mix, for me is completely devoid of genre. It's devoid of popularity. It just needs to give me certain criteria that I can, again, judge the room, the playback system, my perception, and they are.
How do you identify what makes a good reference mix? Is it just something you like?
For me, it's not if I like it or not. Like I was saying, it's criteria. What are the criteria? 1, full frequency spectrum. 2, full spatial width. 3, a pretty wide dynamic range. And especially if it has punchy transient information, the better. So full frequency spectrum. I have a mix that I know contains information all the way up to 20 kilohertz and has content in the middle and has content as low as it can. If it has something in 30 hertz, great. This will allow me to go to any room. I'm on tour. I'm visiting a studio I've never been to. I play it back and I know this mix sounds great and it sounds like this. There's something wrong with either the playback system, the room, or my perception. The same thing goes for spatial width, right? I want something that's right in the center, something that is discretely to the right, something that's discretely to the left. Mm-hmm. I hit play. The imaging is weird. I know that there's something wrong. Sure. I need to tweak. Dynamics, self-explanatory. And the punchy transient information stuff is I want to know the actual cones, the speakers are working properly.
When you talk about reference mixes, my assumption is you're actually talking about reference masters, because most people don't necessarily have the ability to hear the mix unmastered of the thing that they're going to refer to.
Yeah.
So is there anything, apart from the obvious thing, which is level, where, you know, a master could be, often is, hotter? Is there anything else that you hear when you're listening to your references that you might write off as being part of mastering that you're just going to say, I'm not going to pay attention to that right now?
Yes, it's a mastered mix. And when I start using these mastered mixes, obviously they're going to be 10, sometimes 20 dB louder than my properly gained mix that I'm doing. So of course I need to bring it down so that I can level match with the concept of equal loudness curves, right? If you have something that is very, very loud, your perception of the low end extreme and the top end extreme is going to be more uniform. When you start bringing things very quiet, our ear's efficiency on the low end and the top end starts to decrease. Mm-hmm. So I put in a reference mix and I level match it. The next step is I'm not paying attention to how the kick drum sounds in the master. And I'm not matching it to my kick drum. I'm not paying attention to the vocals in the reference mastered mix and paying attention to mine. It's like the Matrix. I'm just seeing zeros and ones. I'm just looking for low end extension, top end extension, left, right, dynamic, punchy. That's it. Mm-hmm. Jumping in, let me show you how I work with reference mixes in a session. So here we have a song called Until the Sun's Done Burning by artist Lindy Hoshikawa. So this has already been mixed, organized. I'm ready to go. But before I start doing anything, I always import my references right into the multitrack. So as we said a minute ago, this is not the way that it should be done, but rather I'm just showing you how I go about things. And these are concepts that I want you guys to try. So the first thing is here, I literally import the references into the session itself. And you see here that I have, as you were prompting, brought them down in level to match mine. So here I have the song Mentiras by Los Amigos Invisibles. I have Stay the Night by Zedd, and I have Blank Space by Taylor Swift. I also, though, do the following. On my master fader, I have an instance of Ozone. And in Ozone, there's a cool feature where you can upload references. So here I uploaded Blank Space and I brought it down so that it can level match. And then when I hit play on my mix, I could hit play here and toggle between the two. So I just have it at the ready. It's just another point of access. Lastly, I also use tonal balance control, which I love. And here you see that I have imported Blank Space, and now I have the curve to reference later. So I'm totally set to go and ready to just make sure that my top end, my width, my low end, everything is as it should be. If the concept of reference mixes, as I understand them, makes sense, then let's talk about the second tier, which is what most people understand as a reference mix, which is I'm doing a hip hop track. Give me a hip hop track that sounds awesome. Mm-hmm. But I try to negotiate between finding what I understand is a reference mix and then find reference mixes in the genre. So this song that I'm about to mix is, listen to the genre here. Acoustic.
Your smile gets under my skin.
So kind of singer-songwriter acoustic vibe. Bit of a quirky instrumentation here and there, but pretty straight ahead. Let's move forward to the chorus so that you can really get a sense of what the climax sounds like, and then this will tell you why I chose the secondary reference mix that I did.
Never let it run, never let it run out. Never let it run, never let it run out.
So a little poppier, hard-hitting.
My love, my love, my love.
And for these reasons, I'm putting Blank Space from Taylor Swift as my main reference, one that is both the reference mix as I understand it, but also is genre compatible. The importance, again, is for us to have an awareness of the sonic canvas, and for us to, when we start making these decisions, to really make use of the entire canvas, right? Start with the edges. So maybe look at me sweat it out for a quick few minutes on taking this concept of what references can tell us on these three criteria, exploring the edges, right? The edges of frequency, the edges of spatial. And I'm going to do a super quick mix, and then we'll see how we do with the before and after. So here, if we go back to tonal balance control, I imported Taylor Swift's Blank Space, and that's the curve that is giving me. If we go and play our mix as we have it now, which is feeding tonal balance control, we see that we're a little bit underwhelming representation on the low end as well as the top end.
Right. You're not necessarily trying to match vocal sound for vocal sound. You're not trying to match any instrument sound for instrument sound. You're looking more generally at tone, especially at the extremes of the spectrum, the support from the low end.
Totally.
The extremes, the boundaries.
Yeah, and digging in a little bit more into this concept is I ask you guys to go open up your multitracks and survey the multitracks and see who here is responsible for the top end. A couple of them are going to go, me, I guess, but you're not top endy at all. But that's my job. All right, we're going to make you top endy. So you need to go and survey. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that we're going to push to the edges, if you will. And in some tracks, it's the bass. Oh, no. In another one, it's the kick drum. In another one, it's the tambourine. In another one, it's the sibilance of the vocal. It's never formulaic. Let's go listen to the chorus. And because this is a quick cooking show, what I'm going to do is have us listen to the chorus. And then I have jotted here, I have made notes on what instruments are responsible for those edges. The first pass we're going to do is the spatial pass, spreading things apart. And then we're going to do another pass with the frequency. So here is the chorus so you can listen to it.
Never let it run, never let it run out. Never let it run, never let it run out. Until the sun's done burning. My love, my love, my love. My love won't run out.
So that's the chorus. And the reason why I'm focusing on that section is because it's the densest section. So let's do this. I'm going to make a very quick bounce until the sun, and let's call this a before mix. I'm just going to capture what we have, import it in there so we can toggle. Mm-hmm. So let's see, and import after bounce, and we are at the same resolution as the session, and here we go. Now that we keep that safe, let's go and make a few quick tweaks. And let's just super double check that this is in fact sounding exactly the same. So here's solo of the bounce and then solo of the multitrack.
Never let it run, never let it run out. Never let it run.
And they sound the same. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Because we're slaves of fashion, this needs to be black. There you go, mix organization. And here are the things that I have written really quickly are, these overheads are responsible for the edges spatially. So this that was pan 50, I'm going to pan 100 and 100. The rooms do the same. So I'm going to pan these 100 and 100, just going at this quickly. Then we have this hi-hat, which I am panning hard left.
Drummer's perspective.
Drummer's perspective, because who does not want an air drum?
Sure enough.
Right? And then we have this tambourine, which we're going to pan opposite of the hi-hat to the right. let's see if there's anything else. Then we have this Rhodes that happens in the chorus. This Rhodes is pretty much a mono signal, even though it's stereo, it's pretty much centered. And then we have this amplifier. They're pretty much the same signal. So I'm panning one hard left and the other one hard right. They got a little bit louder because of that. So what I'm going to do is just bring them down a hair. These are things in this cooking show that I've pre-figured out. But now we got our panning done. Now let's go over to frequency distribution. So here I'm opening tonal balance control. And if I survey, as I was telling you, if I survey, hey, who's responsible for my low end? For the low end, it's actually the kick drum. Mm-hmm. So I am going to open up, not neutron rather, but I'm going to remote control neutron with tonal balance control. So once again, I'm going to go very quickly here to tonal balance control, and here I will select the kick drum, and I'm going to change and here I'm going kind of ballpark, but there. And we're better. Tonal balance control needs a second to survey the incredible amount of things that it's surveying, but there we're considerably closer. Then let's do the same for the hi-hat. And here I'm taking a shelf and I'm going pretty aggressive with it. But again, this along with the tambourine, these are the two things responsible. So I'm not being shy with them. The next one is the tambourine. So for the tambourine, there's something about the tambourine here that I see there's a lot of energy right around that 8K area as well. So I'm just going to boost the perception of its presence, and it's going to be a mix between these two. Just very quick little boost here. Because of the amount of energy, it's quite louder. Just going to bring it down a hair. There we go. And we see that on tonal balance control, we're looking considerably better.
Watching you do this is helping you sort of understand what's possible, giving you a point of comparison, and then you'll go and sort of revisit the decisions. It's like this is a move to sort of get us close to some idea, but is this working in exactly the right way? I can still go back and change it. You're not going to maintain the template just for the sake of the template, right?
I'm finding the edges so that I can then paint within. I'm going to be revising this stuff later. I just want to go, I'm going to go make my painting. And if I just start doing this, the canvas might be this big. But if I go, oh, the canvas is this big, and I choose deliberately I just want to have the awareness. Yeah. So the edges help.
But this is so much better than a cooking show, because if you did that with salt in your cake batter, it would be hard to take it out.
It would be hard. You would just have to make 2 cakes to dilute, and it's messy. See, already messy.
This is way easier.
Totally.
Or better.
So now let's go and listen to what we imported before, right? Which was our mix with, as we had it a second ago, and then the result of our quick mix as we toggle. So here we go. Different.
Yeah, it is different. It's noticeably different.
If I had to do the 5-minute mix, I mean, to me, in my humble opinion, it improved a lot. Mm-hmm. Yes, the hi-hat is a little bit too loud because I added a lot of energy. All of these details we will go in. But I think if I had 5 minutes to do something, this just got me so much mileage emotionally out of just finding the edges of the sonic canvas. So this to me is why reference mixes are so important. And this is hopefully this little quick sample is setting the stage for conversations we will get way deeper into.
You talked about frequency and you've talked about sort of the edges of the canvas. You also call out dynamics. How does one assess dynamics when you're thinking about a reference? Is there something that you can point to that helps you sort of understand the dynamic portion of a reference?
The short answer is what informs dynamic relationships is purely my instinct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My instinct that is informed by the process that we spoke about a minute ago. I was a music lover for a million years. Then I decided to study engineering and I gathered a bunch of tools and then I had to unlearn them almost and go back to what is going to make this track feel as it should. Once I do that, then I turn again my engineering hat on and I maybe look into gain staging and not running into issues technically, but that's the short answer.
This is especially where, for me, emotion comes in. If I can still hear everything in proper balance, whatever that means, but also each element that comes in or each section that comes in provokes a response.
Yeah.
That's where the dynamics lives.
Yeah.
And some of these other things are more tethered to sort of the perception of depth or being able to lose yourself in the track. But dynamic change, for me, sort of relates to that feeling. So, and for people who are interested in experimenting with these tools, they're available. You can get free demos and learn about TBC and learn about the referencing options and all of that. So there's the invitation to try this for yourself.